What's up, YouTube? Bear here. Want to talk a little bit today about Kamigawa Neon Dynasty draft format. I've been having some pretty good success on the ladder here, and wanted to kind of just talk through specifically red in the format. As you can see, I played plenty of green decks. In most drafts, I am playing green. It's just such a deep, solid color with a ton of very, very, very good uncommons as well as rares, and does pair with essentially every color I would say outside of red extremely well. It splashes well. A very good control mid-range grindy deck that's performed extremely well through the format, and I think everyone knows that. Red, on the other hand, has not been performing so well in the format. It's not that many good commons, not that many great uncommons, and the rares aren't actually as good as the other colors. But I do think the best deck in the format does have red in it, and I do think it is red black. And as you can see, I've actually drafted it the most out of any one color pair, while still drafting red the least. Um, in this season at least. So I just want to kind of go through what I've learned playing red black to a pretty decent rate, and try and help you guys out, see when red is open and how to kind of capitalize that in your draft table. Because if you're in the red black deck uncontested, I do think it's better than any green black deck. Which I know has gotten a lot of hype in this format. I do think green black would be the second best deck in the format. But I do think red black just has so much legs here. So first, I want to kind of just talk about the deck in general. We're on 17 lands here, looking exactly red black. So what makes this deck work? I think just like with any other deck, I think you start with the uncommons. Just like in green, white, blue, and black, the uncommons do a lot of the heavy lifting, and the commons kind of just are there for setting up your game plan to let your uncommons and rares really take over for the most part. Red black is no different. You do need some very strong uncommons, and you don't actually need that many rares, but having a good rare definitely does help. But just going into what makes this deck work. So we'll start with the uncommons. The ones that are awesome, awesome, awesome. Obviously, Life to Shiro is good in any black deck, but I want to talk a little bit more about this deck in specific. The Patchwork Tauntaun is just it's an A plus in this deck. It's hard to deal with early, and then hopefully by turn 4, when they would be able to play their lethal exploit or whatever it may be on this card, you kind of have it out of range. That Word 2 is actually huge on this card. Puts on a lot of pressure, and definitely a signpost to get into this. If you ever see this card, it is obviously colorless, but this is a red card. I would never imagine playing this card in any non-red deck. I mean, maybe a blue-black artifacts deck is out there, but um, this is also better than being one in a red or being, whatever. The flexible mana, you do run into mana issues with red black, I would say, because typically you are running 15 or 16 lands, and you do need a fair amount of mountains just to be able to play your synthesizers. So this being colorless is actually a huge upside on the card, and it's just plus one whenever you cast an artifact is an awesome, awesome effect. So obviously this card's great. Twin shot sniper good in any red deck. It's good here as well. Command Phase Kakazan, awesome, awesome card. I think this card is underrated and a card that I kind of slept on in the beginning. The +1/+1 counter on your 2-drop, especially if it's a flyer, is awesome. I'll go into what that flyer is going to be here. But this card is great. It's better than any common for sure. Onicolt Anvil. This is kind of how the deck is defined. If you have an Onicolt Anvil in your red-black deck, you're actually able to play a little bit longer of a game, which is funny for a 2-drop. But this really, I mean, even if it didn't have the tap sack artifact to ping for 1/1, or for drain for 1, I would still want to play this card because just having an artifact die in your turn is pretty easy. It's something that you can definitely come by, and that's actually the mode you don't want to be sacrificing the artifact unless you really want that drain, or it's better to kind of hold up on your opponent's turn so when they do go to either kill an artifact or you can block and sack your artifact, there's a lot of gameplay with the Onical Anvil that does take a lot of practice with the kind of maximizing this card. I actually like this card so much in the limit format. I started playing a little bit in standard, and I would say it's maybe a little bit slow there, but it is still just such a powerful card. That if you ever are in red black or you ever see this card, I would definitely consider moving to red black. It is that powerful, and it is deck warping. Circuit Mender, obviously a great card. Long Reach Knight, I've had it in one deck. I didn't particularly like it, but I do need more games with it to come to a firm conclusion on if this card's good. I do think it is good, just being able to go 3 for 1 on a 4 drop. It's usually pretty good. Gravelighter, excellent. Smelter, none of these are really surprising. And I would say they end about here at Dockside Chef. So you have a couple of removal spells. The ninjas are awesome actually in red black. This one and the 3/2 black common that ninja uses for 1 and a black. Uh, they're both high tempo, even though you're taking something out. Because hopefully you're taking out a virus spiel or something like that that's small that has benefits of either leaving the battlefield like a circuit mender or playing it again like a virus beetle. So definitely a powerful card. These ones, these are good cards in the deck. They are not must-haves, but they are definitely very nice. So I've heard a lot, at least on the Lords of Limited podcast, I think it was, that red doesn't play well with others. I don't know if and it plays well with itself. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. Because there are just not that many good red commons. And so I don't know how it plays well with itself when there's literally 4 red commons I want in this deck. It's Simian Sling, Voltage Surge, Common Flare, and Synthesizer. Obviously, this Synthesizer is awesome, awesome, awesome. Gets major bonuses if you either have the Smelter or the Onical Anvil. Being able to sacrifice it at a gain. The even with the smelter, it only costs 1 mana. You're getting a 3/1 with haste, probably better than a 2/2 vigilance, although it's pretty close. But obviously, 1 mana is much easier than playing 2 in a red. So definitely good with the smelter. Obviously, good with the anvil. Helps you go long. Helps you play a longer game. Smelter is where you want to be at common. It's you want 2 to 3 in each one of your red black decks. These other cards, Common Sphere and Voltage Surge are both good. You probably want one of each. But they're not must-have. Simian Sling, it's a good. You want to be playing cards on one. You are going to be running 15 or 16 lands. You do want to be aggressive, but these decks do have these decks are just about establishing board presence and capitalizing on that board presence. So even if they have Bamboo Grove Archer, which is a great green card at 2 mana, everyone's kind of using as their stopgap in these super greedy green X decks that are just playing the best cards they open, having a couple 2 drops. If you can just get through that first 2 drop and you're able to really press your board advantage while they kind of play network terminals and whatever, just trying to cast their spells. If you're able to just even if you only get in 6 or 7 points of damage in the first few turns, but you accumulate a board state to when your smelter comes down, your Onical Anvil, or once we get one of these black commons like a Clawing Torment, just getting these cards down so that when you do have the opportunity to attack, you can get as much damage in is kind of the name of the game with red black. So moving on to the black commons, there are a few more. Like I said, in red there's 4 commons I want to play. In black there are a few more. Okiba Reckoner Raid, obviously very good. It's good in every black deck, especially good in this one because it is aggressively slanted. I will say though, for my money, I have had better luck with drafting Virus Beetle high. Um, being an artifact I think is a big plus, especially if you have the Patchwork Automaton, the Smelter, the Onical Anvil. Those are the 3 really build rounds at uncommon in my opinion that do make Virus Beetle that much better. Again, great with the ninjutsu cards. You can see the ambushes actually higher than I think a lot of people would think. I've been running this card extremely high. I usually run 2, I would say, my black decks, or my red black decks. And I also usually run 2 of these Ink Rise Infiltrator. Again, just being able to chip in for a few points of damage in the early turns, and then being able to swing in later for 3 or 5 whatever damage is awesome. Awesome. It's big game. This card is threatening. And like I said, we only are running 15 or 16 lands, but the synthesizers, we're actually going through our deck pretty quickly. And being able to play the synthesizer on turn 3, I think that's really where you want to play the card. And to be able to play your Inkred's Infiltrator off of a synthesizer, you want a lot of 1-2 drops, a few threes, and maybe 1 or 2 4s. So the Infiltrator, definitely a card that I run highly. So in black, the commons I want are Keep Your Wrecking Raid, Clawing Torment, Virus Beetle. I'll play the first Twisted Embrace, but that's usually 4 cost cards are just not my favorite in this deck, but it is a good effect. Getting their best blocker out of the way can open up some attacks, which is important for this deck. Ambusher, like I said, you can bounce back things. It also, if you play an Iron Apprentice on turn 1, I mean, being able to put this in play on turn 2, you have a 3/2 that's swinging in with lifelink. So it's a good effect, even if you aren't getting any return on what you're returning to hand. So something to consider. The Kami of Terrible Secrets, I have not had that much experience playing with. I have had it in one red-black deck. If you do get some of the, Reckoner Raids or Life to Shiro or the Komako faces Kakuzan, wherever that card, the red uh, saga, that would be a very good place to put the Kami in your deck just to have that extra card velocity. But it's 4 mana. There are not that many 4 mana cards. It usually doesn't make the cut in my deck, but I could definitely see where there are spots for it. And this Infiltrator. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7. Maybe the first Lethal Exploit's not so bad. 7 cards I want in red black. So there are actually more black cards that I want in the red black deck. And then we go to colorless. And the colorless cards never get mentioned. And I listen to all the podcasts. And I feel like the colorless cards in the set are awesome, especially for this deck. Searchlight Companion has to be the headliner, just in the set in general. This is 3 mana for the 1/1 flyer that makes a 1/1 colorless spirit. Being an artifact, this card is awesome. Like I said, when it comes down in turn 3, you're gonna get a couple damage, most likely in the air. And if not, you create 2 bodies that can either block or you can sacrifice the flyer to make 3/1 if you need, or whatever it may be. There are a lot of payoffs for this card. Like I said, ninjutsuing this card in. Let's say you have this card in a Virus Beetle, Virus Beetle turn 2, Searchlight Companion turn 3. Then you go next step and you attack with both, and they have a blocker. I promise you, they block the Iron Apprentice because they don't, or not the Iron Apprentice, the Virus Beetle, because they don't want you to ninjutsu that out. But then if you bring in the red black uncommon ninja, let's see if I can find it. Color black uncommon. The Prowler. If you can get the Prowler down on your Virus Beetle, it's big game, and that card does enable it, and just free damage early. So definitely something to consider at common. But I think the best one, truthfully, in this color is the Iron Apprentice. I think this is a card that's definitely a standout. Being able to sacrifice this for value, both for the 1/1 counter, or if you come on and face Kakuzan, if you get 2 counters on this, whatever it may be, this card is just important. Being on the board early is important. And I've had really good success. So what I wanted to do, kind of going through the cards that are good. Obviously, there are a bunch of decent rares. I guess we can go through those really quick, actually. Rare and mythics. Obviously, this card's good. These cards need no introduction. The ones to look at are red. Like, this card is splashable. This card is less splashable to Raiju. If I pick up this card, I'm usually looking to play red-black because I don't think green-red is particularly playable. I think red-black is the only deck that you want to be if you first pick a red card. Not always true. I guess, like I said, you can end up splashing in this, but Lizard Blades, a couple other things in here, but they're all just kind of medium. Like I said, the red rares just aren't as good as, like, outside of this one. They're not as good as the other colors, except for the Mirror Breaker. So I want to go through 3 different ways that you can end up in this deck and that you can end up playing this deck, because just seeing a deck is good and very playable. It's hard to know when to get into red black, because it's not a deck that is contested. If both red and black are both contested, you're going to have a difficult time getting a decent result. Unlike a green deck where you can have 4 or 5 people in green and still have a great green deck. All you have to do is first pick a couple good uncommons, and then the commons kind of figure themselves out. So let's go into how you end up in this deck. So the first one, awesome. Like I said, Untapped TG, awesome resource. If you don't have it, I do recommend getting it. Really lets you go through your drafts and see how you've been doing. So open a Hitsugu. I think this card's awesome. I really do like it. I actually don't think it's great in aggressive decks. It's kind of weird. It's 3 mana to turn your 4/4 sideways. So it's kind of like you want it. It's great. It is great, but this is a very splashable card. If I'm in green black, I'm going to play this card and splash the red. So when I take this, I'm open. I'm very open. I could be red, black. I could be black, green, splashing red. It could be black, blue, splashing red. It could be black, white, splashing. So that's the nice thing about black and literally play with every color. Outside, that's where green, can't play with red. Even though I do think green is overall the stronger color. So we do take the Hitsugu. We are passing some good cards here. I think my next pick would be Twisted Embrace, just over the Modern Age. Um, but this is not the strongest pack, so it's kind of nice to get a good rare. Pack 2. So now we kind of know some red cards, right? If these cards were blue or something like that, we'd also note them just for what their cards are. But the best cards in this pack that aren't black are definitely red. And so that's when the person on my left is getting a pretty good red card. Something of clock's not something that you want if you want to go into red black. You will be seeing them pick ahead of you in pack 2, which is not great, but it is what it is. If you have good red cards and you're passing good red cards, it's not something to be overly mindful of, but just something to take consider of. So in third, we get to keep a Reckoner Ray. Here there are less good cards. Tameless Completion, the Guide Bot are both okay cards I will play, but we take the Keeper Record Raid, and so far we are 3 black cards, 3 good black cards. We have the 2 best black commons outside of Mary Virus Beetle. All those 3 though are very, very close. Pick 4. Can you believe this? We get Life to Shiro. So like, all right, we are in black again. We are seeing this red being passed. The Circuit Mender is awesome, awesome, awesome. I wish I could have that card too, but we're not complaining with a Life to Shiro. So pick 5 here. So this is an interesting pack. Again, Dragon Spark Reactor and Reinforced Ronin are not cards that I want to play in my red black deck. I will play these if I lack power. I'll play the Reactor. If I lack turn 1 plays, I'll play the Ronin. But I don't think I've played either of them. Just as something to consider. So take it for what it is. I would play them, but I think if I knew I was red black, I would take the Iron Apprentice for sure. That's definitely the pick. But I wasn't sure. These red cards. I don't want to. I know I've been passing a lot of red, so I'm not 100% convinced that red black is where I'm going to end up. And so I take the Tanuki, which is a card that I like. Again, I'm just going to take the green card. It is definitely not the best green card in the world, but it does go well with white, or it does go well with black. These white cards are all pretty okay. They're Golden Tail Disciple is definitely playable, but kind of what are the chain? This is a card that I've not been impressed with, even in red black. It costs 3 mana. The Reconfigure 2 is big. Put this on one of your flyers. It is a threat, but a lot of things have to go right for this to go well. And it's just, again, 3 mana. You need to be doing a lot in red black, and this card does not do as much, although it does attack well. So then I get to pick 6. And there are no, Tameo Safekeeping is a card that I really like. I play one every single green deck if I have it. And a card that I do take actually pretty highly. But I've seen so much red at this point that this backdoor into red, the Simian Sling is a huge card for that deck. So I think this is a tough pick. I don't think it's you could go wrong going either way. But I hedge my bets. The odds of seeing another Safekeeping are pretty high, and I only want one in that deck. Where if I'm in red black, I want every single Simian Sling I can get pretty much. So I do take the Simian Sling here. Next pick. This is a Commune Industry is not a card that I find to suit what red black wants to do. It wants to be super low to the ground, leverage synthesizers, and just beat your opponent before you can cast 5 mana spells reliably. So I take the Season Renewal, obviously an awesome card in green black. Geothermal Kami kind of fits in green black a little bit. Very good Twisted Embrace though. I was going to take the decoy until I saw that I had a Twisted Embrace, and obviously being able to pick those up and put them back down is a good combo. So I do take the Kami. And there's another Simian Sling. No, this is pick 9, so I did not get back. I think it was Rabbit Battery. Oh no, I got everything back. Rabbit Battery was picked 3. Uh, or maybe we just have not seen Rabbit Battery. I don't know what I'm thinking. Okay, so we get the Simian Sling. I did note that wheeled. And then we get some gems. Temper and Soul, Solitude, both these cards I do not like in red black. Again, this is just 4 mana. How many 4 mana spells do I want in my red black deck? Again, maybe 2 or 3, and this card is a cut below what is offered at 4 mana, so I do not like this card. Temper and Solitude, though, I thought, maybe there's a chance of making my deck. Seems okay. I played against it. I've never played with it. I don't value the card that highly, but it can be frustrating to play against, so I thought there was a chance I could put it in my deck. There, I get the safekeeping I was talking about. Hiring apprentice wheels, and we're pretty happy with life. So let's look at our deck here. We have, 4 okay green cards. And in red, we have 2 Simian Slings. So we're pretty on the line between which deck we are, between black red or black green. All we know is we're definitely black. So let's go to pack 2. All right, boys, what are you taking out of this pack? I think this is one of the picks I took the longest of the entire format. And I think the Oni Kill Anvil is a slam dunk. I think the Kami of Transits is an awesome card, and I do actually have a few enchantments. But this card is it's game warping. It really changes the way you puts your opponent on a clock, and it builds. It's just a lot for 2 mana in the red black deck, and I really like it. I haven't talked about this card yet. This card is playable. Again, I know I've been talking down about like that 4 mana 3/4. This for 5 mana removes and enables attacks really really well. Uh, I mean it's 5 mana, so you only want one if you're gonna play it, but it is playable. Understated Scrounger also playable, although definitely not as fast. You are more grinding people out with this card and the Onical Anvil and the Smelter, but it's okay. I will play one if I'm a slower red black deck. Then we get the Virus Spiel, and from here on out, we kind of just take red, black, good cards. It kind of just is what it is. The deck is pretty open. I do like the Papercraft Decoy in this deck. More Simian Slings, more Synthesizers. This is where we pick up all of our Synthesizers. And, it ends up being, here's the Kumano. I really like that card. Over Circumventer, I'm not sure. This card just costs 1. If I'm lacking turn 1 plays, I definitely take that card. But look at this pack. This is the most wild pack in the world. So I could have been green, right? And taken that Kami, the 2 mana Kami. But I ended up going red black and seeing this. Shigeki is one of the best rares in the set. But I do think I went in the right direction. Get second only Cold Anvil, and there's a second Springleaf Avenger. So I mean, I was gonna end up with a good green deck no matter how I played. I love Klein Torment. Blossom Prancer pick 11 with the spin wheel kick in the pack. Let me tell you though, I ended up in the right deck. I ended up going 7-2 in mid plat. This was one of my first drafts of the season. So that was the first. So how we ended up in red black there, we started with good black cards, and then you just noticed that red was both open and available, and we had the right cards to go into it. We offered the Onical Anvil and everything like that to really enable red black, and that was one of the more fun drafts I've had because I was so certain I was green black when I saw that Kami. I was like, oh, nice, this awesome 2-drop. But let's just move into the color combination that's I think a more powerful and early game oriented uh draft archetype, but I think it was the right call, and I think that was a difficult decision to make. Now, the second way you get in red black is pretty easy. You draft really good red cards. All right, so if you open the red dragon, you want to be playing red. It just is what it is. This deck is nothing too crazy. I think this Kumano is better here. Honestly, I've gone back and forth between these two. I think the Kumano is better in red black. And sometimes you're just given all the best cards. You know, you start out with the red dragon, you just go. As soon as I pick a red card, I'm red black. I'm not playing red with any other color combination, unless there's just a super aggressive. I don't even know blue opener as well. But this deck, I'm not going to talk about too much. You just start drafting red cards, and it's usually open. Oh, this is a card that I will play as well at 3 mana. I don't love it, but I will play it. So nothing, and Yahik or Heiko is okay. This is a not very good uncommon that is playable. I would say it's below most commons, but it is playable. Nothing too fancy with this deck. This deck was just good because it had good cards. Did not take a lot of expertise. I just drafted the rares and then took what come with took what came with it. So let's go to the third way. The third way you end up in this deck. So you start heavy black and find reds open. You get good red cards to start with. You just go red. The third way is by staying open. By staying open, you just are starting with artifacts. And as soon as you get into artifacts early, you're usually looking to play at least red, if not, red black, because you're playing red. So, I mean, you can play blue, but it's just not as consistent of a color pair. So the circuit mender here to open, I do stand by this card as being the pick. It's colorless, it's good. The Prowler, like I said, is awesome. Modern Age is also awesome. Circuit Hacker, Jukai Preserver. Circuit Mender is better than all of them, and so that's where we're going to start. I did note these two cards, because if I draft this card, I do want to be in red-black usually. It's a great sacrifice outlet. Here we see the Automaton definitely over the battery. I mean, this is a good card. The only thing that sucks about passing it is it sends signals that's open. Even though this card is a red card, like I said, this card is it could be one or red, and it would be pretty much the same card to me. I think it is slightly better being colorless, but it is pretty much a red card for me. So we do take it though. Power levels there. Then we get a Simian Sling. So like, okay, maybe red's open here, and we kind of just go down. Keep at this point we have four colorless cards and one red card, and or one black card. Uh, so I'm pretty sure I'm red black here. I pretty much just forced it to be honest. So this is a really good card. Again, it gets in damage early, gets in damage late, and great with counters or anything like that. Good with Simian Sling. So nothing too crazy. Here's that Kami again. But the Kumano, there's so many good cards. Actually, I take that back. There are not that many good cards, but the few cards that are good in red black, and so it's just making sure that the deck is open, and you will find that I think your results should be good. It helps when you open a Fable, the Mirror Breaker, and pack 3, pick 1. I mean that's just good practice. You want to see what comes next? Pick 2. Explosive Singularity. Now, this is a card, obviously, at Mythic, you're not going to see very much. I'm playing with it purely for science. Is the Synthesizer the better pick? Probably. Let's actually see what 17 land says. Mythic. Explosive Singularity, yeah, is below what, but it does have improved when drawn win rate. So I'd have to. That's what I'm playing with to get a feel for it. Honestly, I've played 3 games with this deck so far, and I am 3-0. So it's kind of cool to see that it's done work and it has killed someone for me. But I think a Ninja Kunai would have won me the game as well. So we'll see. More to come on that card. And then we get a Goro Goro, which has been great in this deck because you have Kamano, you have Simian Slings, and you get one more of each of them, so that helps. Gravelighter is great, but you can see red's just open. If you actually pay attention to these packs, red open a lot, and that's what's brought me to playing this deck more than any other singular deck in this format. I've really been enjoying this format. I probably will post some gameplay of the deck that we kind of just went over on the channel maybe tomorrow. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Hope this gave a little bit insight into the red black uh, archetype in this format. I think it's extremely strong. I think all the decks, especially at the higher rating you get, are just super greedy. And I love playing the super greedy decks, but sometimes you don't get the best super greedy cards. And trying to compete with super greedy decks with a slightly less greedy deck is just not where you want to be in this format. So if red black is open, I do suggest you go into it because it's open a lot and the power level is definitely there. You just need a couple of the right uncommons. If you between Onical Anvil, Patchwork Automaton, and Smelter, I believe if you have hopefully three, but if you have two out of the three and enough commons to back it up, you're gonna have a 5+ win deck. I mean, being aggressively playing this format is just super valuable. So, hope you guys enjoyed. Sorry if I spoke a little faster. Things are gonna be rough. This is my first YouTube video I've ever made, so please be nice in the comments. But let me know what you guys think about Red, and talk to you guys later. Peace.